Well, welcome back to another episode of SolarGain's podcast series. Today we're going to talk about installation day and what to expect. This is going to be much more you than me. There's been a lot more talking from you.
Yeah, I hope so. Oh, okay.
Shut up.
Thank you.
What happens on installation day, Colin?
What happens on installation day? Lots of guys turn up and throw it in.
Not that.
No. Installation day. So in the morning, you will get 2, maybe 3 installers appear. They will turn up. There will be a guy who will deal mainly in roofing. He will be putting roof hooks in, rails, panels, those kind of things. You'll have an electrician. The electrician will be dealing with the cabling, the wiring, wiring to panels, to inverters, inverters to mains, and hooking up to the main incoming supply, and checking everything works, making sure that panels are generating, those kind of things, really. And another guy generally to help out and run around and crawl in lofts and generally do all the hard yards, all the heavy lifting, that kind of thing.
Great.
So yeah, generally the guy, electrician, will talk the customer through what's going to happen, where it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, in terms of locations of inverters, batteries, panels, cable routes, all those kind of things. Just so they're clear, just so that everyone knows where everything's going. No one expected or wasn't expecting that to be there, or didn't want that there.
Yep.
None of those kind of scenarios.
It's a mess if you have to take it off.
It does, yeah, and it leaves holes everywhere.
Yep.
So yeah, that'll be generally the start of things. And then the guys will get on with their own individual jobs. I'd say it normally takes sort of a day, essentially, for a smaller system.
Yep.
Again, with 3 people. And then obviously there'll be commissioning to do. So that would be something I do. Something I come along afterwards, make sure once everything's in, test it, check it, get it online, and make sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
So you don't do all of our installs?
No.
You do some of them at the moment because you're training?
Yes.
As in you're teaching someone else?
Yep.
So there's a few other bits I would say in that. There's the handover stuff. In terms of creating the app, so the customer can see what the system is doing and
yes,
control of it themselves.
Yeah, talking them through it, what all the little symbols do and mean.
Yeah.
So they can see the flow of their electricity, where it's going, where it's coming from, where it's going to. And just generally have a chat with them about the system, what's been installed, what all the switches do, which ones turn off, which bits. But generally they don't touch any of those. But
of course,
I think it's useful.
People fiddle all the time.
It's useful for them to know what they are.
Okay, and then we've got some other things that go around that. There's the paperwork and the certifications and all that side of it that's part of the installation. Well, that's all back office stuff that tends to happen.
Yes.
Not at the cold face, as it were.
So electrical certificates.
Yep.
Building control notifications.
Yep. And
then the commissioning certificates that go with the MCS stipulations as such.
Okay. So I think it's important to say that between someone deciding that they want to place an order with us and completing or undertaking the installation, we also do a survey. So, and that's because it tends to be me that goes out and sees the customers, meets them, does the design, does all the measuring, and then I need someone to check my measurements, which is where you come in. So you do all our surveys currently, don't you?
Yes.
So you go out, you meet the customer, you look at the site, you look at the design, and obviously there's a sanity check in that, I think.
Yeah, it's checking that it will fit, firstly. Yeah. Secondly, it's checking to make sure that we can get from A to B. We need to get cables from panels to inverters. We need to get cables to meters and etc. So it's making sure that physically is workable and doable. Yes, there are times when we get to places and their distribution boards and supplies are in the middle of the house somewhere. Yeah, I always say to customers, we've got the AC or the incoming supply, you've got your meter point there, and then we've got your panels on the roof, and then your inverter and battery, if you're having a battery, will go, and there's a line that goes from the panels to the inverter, and there's another line, there's cables basically, that goes to the power source, the grid supply, and your inverter and battery can kind of go anywhere along that route. We just have to lengthen one line and shorten the other. Yes. And that's kind of like this string effect, and that's how I describe it in simple terms, and then you have to come and make it happen. Yes, I think it helps. They do know then where things are going to go. Okay. And some people do actually have a look beforehand and think, oh, where can cables go? Where can I put them? How can I go? I know a route through.
Which can be helpful.
Can be helpful. Sometimes not.
Sometimes isn't. Are there any times we can't put cables anywhere? Are there any compliance things?
There are various places we don't want to run cables, like in cavities and, etc.
Okay.
But mostly there are rules and regulations internally where you can run cables, or if you're hiding cables where they can't be seen.
Mm-hmm.
If cables can be seen, then it's not so much of a problem.
Okay.
But a lot of the time we do run up the outside of buildings, which helps in conduits and etc. So not so much of a problem with where you're running cables.
Okay. Generally, we use scaffolding, and the scaffolding will go in a day or two before.
Yep.
We use a really great local scaffold company. That's Josh at Green Scaffold.
Yep.
And they tend to do all of ours, no matter how far flung they are, because we cover all the way down to the end of Land's End, Cornwall, Devon, and up to sort of Bath and Bristol. So it can be a bit of a trip. But we still prefer to use him because he knows how we want to work. He knows how we want our decks set up. And he's very reliable.
Yes.
And more importantly, or as importantly, he takes it away again afterwards, which is one of the big things that customers really hate.
There's harsh, but I don't know for everyone, but there is a bit of a reputation out there that they just leave them there for days and weeks on end. But
I think it's free storage, isn't it?
Maybe
free storage of scaffold.
I don't know.
Don't need a yard, can leave it at your house for 6 months.
Yeah,
but there's good ones and there's bad ones, but he's a good one, so we tend to use him all the time, which is very helpful. Okay, so we tend to arrive on site 8:30 in the morning.
Around about 8:30, yes.
So Lawrence takes all the deliveries out, unless he's on holiday, and then Vanessa has to drive the van, which she loves. Didn't see her doing any unloading. Oh, actually, no, that's not true. She did. Anyway, I'm going to move on really quickly. So we arrive on site 8:30. Lawrence takes all the deliveries out, and we used to, when we first started, we used to take a lot of the suppliers will do a delivery to you. They will guarantee that they'll have stuff there for 8, 9, 10 o'clock, whatever it is. It just doesn't work.
No.
We ended up having to have our own vehicle and getting all the stock in. We always get all of our stock and products in before fitting day.
Yep.
Because just impractical. Delays.
A day turns into 2 days.
It does. Or 3 or more. Yeah. And it can be really complicated. So we like to have everything in our own stores, checked off, ready to go on the van the day before. And that just works, doesn't it? It works very well. So we should be there on time, 8:30. And so once the decision's made on survey really about where the equipment goes, do people change their mind much between then and installation day?
Very rarely. Occasionally, but very, very rarely. I think a lot of the times they're in locations that are out of the way anyway, so they're not worried. They're going to cover it all in coats and bags and boxes anyway. Okay. Even though they shouldn't.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about things like access. You've got to run lines up, cables up. There's ladders, and there's
lofts. There's loft ladders. There's small loft spaces. There's small holes in ceilings to get through. Yeah.
Health and safety is obviously fundamental.
Yeah.
I think the scaffolding usually presents the most obvious danger, but there are other things. Obviously,
you have to be careful in lofts.
Yeah.
Very careful. We don't want feet through ceilings.
Has that ever happened to you?
No.
Do we want to talk about that? Let's not talk about that. No. It does happen.
It does happen. Yes.
Not very often. Only once.
Just the once.
Only happened once.
Yes.
Anyway, it was all made good.
But and it's heavy lifting heavy objects.
You did the painting as well, I seem to recall.
Yes, I did.
Anyway,
thank you.
Yeah.
It's heavy lifting. It's the batteries. It's things like that. They're not light.
No.
So it's having that manual handling and making sure that that's all done safely.
I think the Gen 2 Give Energy 9.5 battery is 103 kilos, is it? Boxed weight?
Something like that.
So trying to get that through a small loft hatch and across a loft space that isn't boarded, it's not safe. So we don't tend to do that. We would prefer to put in 2 smaller batteries, which isn't as cost effective.
No.
And there is a slight power output loss as well in terms of maximum power output.
Yeah.
But it's got to be safe. I mean, if it's a boarded space and it's got a proper ladder, a decent ladder and a good, some of these big long hatches that pull down with good ladders on,
Is that
We have done it, haven't we?
is that also an appropriate time to mention about the rumours of regulations about batteries in lofts?
It probably is, yeah. So there was a recent British standard that came out, wasn't there, that recommended you don't fit in lofts, and that was because of the potential risk of thermal runaway, basically creating battery fires. And a lot of people do worry about that. So Give Energy, one of the biggest manufacturers and suppliers of UK domestic batteries, came out and said, that sounded like a plug, didn't it? It wasn't meant to. But they came out and said that they weren't consulted on the British standard. And actually, their products have been altered over time. So they've taken the cobalt out of the battery chemistry, which effectively removes the thermal runaway problem. And so they don't tend to catch fire. And they're much more safer.
Yes, definitely. So
that was the words I was looking for.
But they're saying they don't have a problem with them being in lofts. Their recommendation is that's fine. That's no problem.
Yep. That's because they don't have to carry them across the loft space.
Yes, probably.
Shouldering 70 kilos, 80 kilos of battery up through lofts, it can be quite challenging.
Yes.
And we have done it. And of course, they bolt to the wall when they're in there, so they're not necessarily floor loading or standing. But the other MCS requirement for fitting in loft spaces or under stairs points of egress would be smoke detectors, link smoke detectors, which we do fit, as a matter of course, even though the fire safety risk is effectively diminished through the cobalt-free battery. We still fit them because that's the compliance requirement. Yeah, good thought. Never thought of that. It's something you do kind of think about as you go through things, but it's almost subconscious, isn't it? So in terms of what the customer sees, they have a day of disruption, of noise, of drilling, of screwdrivering, of
the odd power outage, if we're turning things off.
Do you do that much?
Okay, most of the time.
We have to link in, I suppose.
Yeah. So a lot of the time, we will be turning their power off for a brief period of time.
Later in the day?
Yeah, later in the afternoon.
And predictable, so you can tell them when it's going off.
We can inform them,
Unless
let them know.
Through something.
Yes.
Which could happen.
It could happen, but hopefully it doesn't.
Okay.
But no, we would normally give them a warning, let them know that it's going to happen.
Yep.
And they'll be turned off for 15 minutes to half an hour, maybe.
Okay. So in terms of the actual finishing stuff off, you mentioned commissioning.
Yeah.
So what happens during commissioning?
Strings will get tested, so panels. So depending on how many panels are connected together, we will make sure that they are producing what they're supposed to be producing.
Okay.
We will also then test the AC side of things. So we will do various tests to make sure that that's safe and complies with regulations.
Yep.
We will turn things on. We will get them connected to the internet.
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi, yeah.
That's often overlooked by me, certainly. I don't tend to talk about it very much when I think about battery location.
No.
Or inverter.
Inverter location,
yeah. So Wi-Fi. So you need Wi-Fi.
It's something I will look at and ask about on survey, so that I know where their routers are and how far away they are.
Okay.
There are options to hardwire, but again, sometimes that's not practical because people's routers are all over the place.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally Wi-Fi needs to be a good signal at the inverter so that we can connect to the Wi-Fi.
Okay. We need to run a data cable, don't we, between the inverter point, if there's going to be a battery system, between the inverter point and the meter point.
Yes.
So that's another cable we've got to run.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people have outbuildings and things and they'll say, well, why can't you just use the cable that comes from that to that?
Yeah. Can't you use my garage supply?
Yes.
Sort of, depending.
Depends how big it is.
Depends how big it is, and also depends if we can get back to the mains. The Give Energy do an option.
Yeah.
If you can't.
LoRa's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is wireless.
LORA stands for long range.
Right. Oh, I didn't know that.
LoRa. There you go. Apparently, like transmit for 7 kilometers or something.
That negates the need for a cable, but I'd prefer a cable.
Yep.
Always.
Okay.
But there is an option. There is a way around it. But yeah, in terms of garages and putting out buildings, you need to make sure that the supply cable is big enough.
So I tell customers that when you commission, you set everything up and get it running, and then they can expect like 24 to 48 hours of batteries and systems being weird and doing strange things.
So generally, with that Give Energy system, when you first turn it on, it will drain the battery down to 0.
Okay.
And then charge the battery up to 100%, all off the grid, to balance it, to calibrate the cells that are in it, to make sure it's where it needs to be. and then it will start into normal operation.
Okay.
So charging off panels using a house, charging off grid if you set it up, and those kind of things.
Do you need DC input to commission? So do you need a live solar feed, like power coming off the roof? No, because in the old Grow Watt ones they did, didn't they? Because
the batteries are shipped with a charge in them around 30-40%.
Okay.
So as soon as you connect that to the inverter will power up. You don't even need to be connected to the AC.
Okay.
So you can start the commission, you just can't finish it.
Mm-hmm.
So the end part of the commission will check panels.
Yep.
If there's no generation of panels, it won't let you carry on. It'll check the meter side of things, the CT side of things. If you're not getting readings there, it won't let you carry on. Everything needs to be in place once you get towards the end of it, but to start it, you just need a bit of power to the inverter.
Okay. So if you're installing, you tend to commission at the end of installation day if you've got time.
Yeah.
If you're not installing, we tend to book you to go in the following day to give the team enough time to finish in case there's low light levels and things like that. So you can go in and do that separately.
Yeah, because again, if it's like this time of year, we're in winter, December now.
Yep. Dark by 4 o'clock-ish.
Yeah, if there's been a bit of a delay and things aren't finished, you're not going to register any generation on the panels. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to be able to finish commissioning. So generally, next day is preferable.
Yep.
Gives more time to talk through it with the customer as well.
And I've heard a rumour that even though you're an electrician, you do actually have a dustpan and brush.
I've got a brush.
What good is that? Okay, that's what cardboard boxes are invented for, isn't
Exactly.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
I think we'll leave that there. So handover for the apps, and we've talked about the paperwork and things which we send out from the office. It's clearly explained in there what certificates are what, and then we send out building regs and all that. It tends to be post-install really, doesn't it, rather than installation?
Yeah, one of the big questions is, when I've finished commissioning and talked them through the system, is what happens next? How do I claim my money? How do I get my company out of my DNO, not my DNO, but my energy supplier? How do I do that? What happens there? How do I do it? Does it happen automatically? How does that work?
Yeah, there's a process for that. Yep. And we'll talk about that, I think, in another episode. Post-installation stuff. There's a lot of back office function, a lot of paperwork, so we'll come on to that. So effectively, in this instalment, we've talked about installation, what to expect on installation day. And we've talked about the survey. We've talked about turning up kind of 8 o'clock. The scaffolding will come in a day or two before. Generally goes about a week later. And we like time for it to percolate, and we want to make sure everything's working before we take that scaffold away. But yeah, the system commissions. Either you've installed it or one of the installation teams has, and the customers are kept informed and consulted all the way along, and then given an app like a new baby to look at and try and work out what else is going on and not become obsessive. I think that's all about installations. There'll be a lot more, I'm sure. Again, we'd like to come back and break all of these different parts down and do some more in-depth analysis of stuff and put it out there so you can see what it all looks like. But until next time, that's it.